Are you ready now?
I've been ready. Can you
You
hear me
have
well?
not.
Can you hear me
You
well
have
on
not.
my microphone? Do you want it in?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Playbook of the Wealthy. My name is Dave Grant. With me is Heather Townsend, as always. And today we're talking about how to deal with concentrated stock positions, however they've come into your life, and what you need to be doing now. If you haven't been here before, podcast is split into 4 sections. You get to learn about us professionally. Personally, we dive into content and then we answer questions. You need to like, comment, subscribe, follow, whatever you need to do. If you're watching on YouTube, listening on your podcast app, you need to do one of those. You guys have been doing awesome recently. We've gotten a lot of new likes and comments on YouTube, so appreciate that. If you're on a podcast app, we need a little bit better. So please and thank you. Jordan's going to do disclaimers. Here he is.
All opinions expressed by Dave Grant and Heather Townsend are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the views of their respective wealth management firms. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Nothing in this material constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Clients of Retirement Matters and Townsend Financial may maintain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.
The reason you had to listen to that is because we're a financial services podcast. But now we are going to go get into our content. So Heather, how are you?
I don't know what it is about my practice, but my clients are busy in the summer. Most advisors, you even say it quiets down. No, not for me. I am busy. I feel like we get through tax season. There's a little bit of a lull and then they get active again. I'm having a lot of firsts this week. I had to open my first estate account at Schwab. That was a whole new can of worms. And then I'm doing my first NUA with a client having company stock in a 401k, which will go into our discussion today. So there's just like a lot of firsts. There is a lot in 1 week. My clients are busy bees right now.
That's good. It keeps you employed.
It does.
That's a nice thing. If it gets too slow, I start to get nervous. I'm like, okay, everyone doesn't need me anymore.
Yes.
We're toast.
What I'm laughing about though is it seems to always it seems to also happen when my life ramps up. How are you?
Good. Different to you. Things are not as busy, but the space allows me to actually just call clients up and just shoot the breeze with them.
Shoot the breeze.
Yeah. I mean, what's up? What's new? And then you just start to hear random stories of like, I probably should have known this, or that sounds exciting. That's coming up. Or you call someone up and they're like, yeah, my wife had surgery yesterday. I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. Because you don't need to let me know. I'm all about the money, but I want to hear about family and what's going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's various different stories, which I wouldn't have had time to like spend a half hour, 45 minutes on the phone with these people in busy seasons.
All right, let's dive in. Let's talk about stock concentration. I know you have to do your intro. I just messed it up for you, didn't I? Do you want to get on me?
If you'd have just said, let's dive in and then paused, that would have been perfect.
Okay, so you're training me. All right.
Yeah. You want to do it?
Yeah. Can I?
Yeah. All right. Break, take a breath, and then just say it and then breathe again.
Let's dive in.
Look at that. You did a segment all by yourself. All right. We are jumping in. We're talking about concentrated stock. It is a problem. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's a nice problem to have if that stock goes up, and sometimes it's a terrible problem if that stock goes down, and a lot of your net worth is concentrated there.
And
so let's talk about how you...
I have 2 very extreme stories of this today that I'm going to share on both ends. You couldn't be on more like opposite ends of this.
Okay. Anything else?
No, Dave, nothing else. I just wanted to make our listeners get a little excited to hear these stories.
I'm talking. They're always excited. Anyway, back to me. So let's talk about how you get into that problem. This one, I mentioned to Heather, she had no idea what I was talking about. This is a back in the day problem of drip plans.
Yeah, from the 80s. Of course, I don't know what this is. Yeah.
We're not too different in our age. I just have dealt with old clients sometimes.
Okay.
All right, drip plans, direct reinvestment plans. Typically how it works is you would contact the company you wanted to invest in or a broker firm like Computershare and say, hey, buy me ComEd, put $1,000 a month into it and reinvest the dividends. Reinvesting the dividends is just that's what we do now. But back in the day, you had to go company by company to go do it.
Wow.
And if you've had someone who's done that a long time and just left it alone, and dividends have happened and splits have happened, you end up with a huge position in that stock and you just didn't even realize.
You can transfer it on the brokerage though, right? So you then like transfer it to Schwab?
You can.
Or is this like stock certificate days? Like you have to go get the stock certificate and mail it to Schwab, and then Schwab converts the shares. I mean, isn't that, I've heard of that.
I've done both.
That's hysterical. I've done none of this. Yes.
I've driven from a client meeting, how much? It was around $1 million of stock certificates in my car.
Oh, that is
I was so nervous.
That I would be
so nervous.
Oh my gosh, what if it like the burned? How would someone find that stock? What if your car blew up?
Guess I'm on the hook for $1 million.
Okay.
I don't know how that works, honestly.
Yeah.
I guess they can reissue shares.
All right.
But anyway, also this happens if you are in corporate America and you have RSUs, you don't have any plan for them, and you just stockpile them. Seen this multiple times, and you're talking mid 6 figures of stock just sat there, growing, hopefully, because the company's growing, but there's no real plan for it, and you're just digging yourself into a little bit of a hole.
I have another one. What is it today, Dave? What?
You interrupted. Go. Come on, let's go.
Employer match with company stock. Sometimes in a 401k, have you seen that where like the company only gives the employer match in the company stock?
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's happened twice to me. And then I have to rebalance the client's account.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Huh. Another place it happens is inheritance. If you're getting stock from family members, typically that's fine because you're getting a step up in basis. But again, if you leave that alone and you just let it sit there and the stock grows, you're digging yourself a tax hole. And then from our COVID days, you got the popping stocks. So you got your Nvidias, your Netflix, Meta when it's on the upside. But stocks that just rapidly grow, and then you find yourself in, okay, my portfolio is totally lopsided. What do I do?
The highest I've seen in concentration of stock is 40% of a client's portfolio in one stock. What have you seen?
100?
100? I would have a mini heart attack. What did you do?
I've seen it twice. So it was someone who, first one was somebody who worked for Amazon, had RSUs just kick out and not done anything to it. And they came in. I essentially didn't work with them in the end because they couldn't get themselves together. And then Amazon dropped. And they were like, oh, I'm going to use my Amazon stock. I'm going to buy a house. I'm like, cool. We need to formalize an agreement first before we can do anything. So that didn't go. And then the other one was someone who called me after seeing some of my videos and said, I have all of my 401k is company stock. I don't really have any other savings. And it's just climbed up and up and up. What do I do? And that ended up being a phone call, me just giving them some guidance. But again, they didn't work together because that was their only problem. That they thought. They probably had more problems, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I wanted to share my stories because I think, people can understand why this is a good thing and a bad thing. You can get to concentration of stock, right? Because a stock has significantly outperformed a diversified portfolio. NVIDIA in the past few years, right, would be a good example. Amazon, Google. One of my first clients, I had just started my firm, and they had Costco stock. So this is where it went bad. I mean, not bad. I mean, there's still clients. I love them dearly. But yeah, 40% of their portfolio was in Costco stock, and they were getting ready to retire. And I was like, and they had enough. And I was just, I was like, Costco stock has done incredibly well, but this is over what I would recommend to have in a concentrated portfolio. Because let's play it out. What if this turned into be GE and it stopped growing? Or, you play that out. You can retire right now. But if Costco, for whatever reason, starts not growing or goes under, or they find out they're cooking the books, whatever, they're not, but
Sure.
You know what example I'm giving. You'd have to go back to work. what risk are you willing to take? So they did take my advice and, went down, I think, to 5, maybe 10%.
That's the pushback I've got from people who have such a big position. It's a huge FOMO of, well, if I sell this, what if it goes up? Like, yeah, that's a valid point.
It is valid.
You may be losing out on money.
Yes.
But I would rather you sleep at night and be okay regardless of what happens to the stock. And if you have I think one guy I talked to had such a severe case of FOMO, he was still working at the company as well. I'm like, well, keep some of it then.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's
like, I'm not, this is your money. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to tell you to just get rid of it all and then you're just going to be pissed if it goes up. Like, keep some of it. But you're probably going to be keeping more than I would suggest.
We never know. Like, you can't predict. Like, we've said this over and over. You just do not know. And again, the client has gotten the upside from this investment because they still kept 5 or 10%. I was fine with that. And they're still clients because I laid it out to exactly them. I said, this is your money. But what I'm more concerned is I think you'd be more upset if you couldn't retire anymore than if you locked in today. So, but here's another story where, thank gosh, the client did listen to me. Huge concentration in Open Door. And I will always remember this. Everyone was telling this client not to sell their Open Door stock. And I was like, I would sell it because you can now buy your house. Your dream house you can buy. It is sitting in your Open Door stock. Sell it now. Sell it now. And, she was like, no, but Heather, everyone at, the company is saying it's just going to keep going to the moon and, it's going to keep going higher. And I was like, look, again, your money, but this is what I would do. It was about $22 a share when she sold. And again, that was enough for her to get the house. It has proceeded to go like this since then. It is now, do you want to guess what it is right now?
5.
69 cents.
Oh, no.
Unless you are inside the company at C-suite level and know what's going on, how do you know when the ship's going to start turning around?
Even then, stock market does not actually do the same things that a company does. Because I have those C-level people who have those blackout dates and they get their stock and they're not allowed to trade certain dates. So they may know what the results are going to be when it comes to a stockholder meeting. But every analyst on that call doesn't necessarily cherry pick the right pieces of data. They may pick that there's a possibility that such and such a drug isn't going to make FDA approval. And that may be the highlight of the call, even though the last quarter and going into next quarter, it's projected that they're going to beat estimates, which typically means the stock price goes up. But if you're just going to cherry pick the negative piece of data, then it may not cause the stock to do what you want it to do or what you think it's going to do. So it's very difficult to pick what a stock's going to do, even if you do have that insider knowledge.
Let's talk about how we handle concentrated stock positions, because depending on what account they're in, like, the tax exposure, the percentage, we might handle them differently, right?
For sure. Yeah. Definitely depending on where they are in terms of what account they're in depends on what your strategy is going to be.
And so retirement account, brokerage, very different strategies. Very different. Yep. So,
all right, let's talk about brokerage first.
Yes.
I'm going to talk brokerage first, then you go to 401k.
Go.
All right. So this is typically if you have RSUs. Let's kind of use that as an example. If they're just every year, every quarter, whenever you get them, it's just exchanging into stocks sitting in your brokerage account. How are you going to get rid of them? So there's a few ways. One, you're going to strategically sell. Doesn't matter what the stock price is going to do. You have a set timeline in place of every quarter you're going to sell X amount of shares. And you can set this up automatically with your brokerage, but it doesn't matter if the stock is down. It doesn't matter if the stock is up. You have to do this very non-emotionally to get out of this position. And that's the only way to do it. Else you're going to go into FOMO. You're going to do all the emotional stuff. You do want to be careful though, because if you're doing that time selling, you may be pushing yourself into tax brackets that you don't want to be in. Just if the stock is going up, your capital gains may be pushing you up. So you do want to time this with, okay, if I sell 500 shares of the stock at X price, what tax bracket is that going to put me in? And you should be looking at, maybe I do a dummy tax return, and this year I only want to sell X dollar amount of this stock. Otherwise, I'm going to be pushing up into higher tax brackets. So pick a tax bracket, whether it's, say it's 24%, figure out what room you have outside of your income and then sell up to that limit.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't want to sell, now we're going to get into some interesting strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do a lot of different option strategies. So if you want to hold that stock and try and get some advantages, the first one you could do covered calls, which is you take your stock and you write a contract on it that someone can buy it from you at a certain price. So for example, you've got stock A. Right now, the value is $100. Your contract is going to be, if this stock gets to $125 in the marketplace, you can come back to me and buy the stock at $100. In order to be able to do that, you have to buy this contract from me for $20. Just making up numbers. The one thing you got to be careful of is you have a volatile stock. You may spike that in a couple of days. And if you wanted to keep that stock, it's gone at a lower price than the market is.
Oh.
So you got to be very careful.
Oh.
Typically, I use this for stocks that don't move much. And you just make the income off selling those contracts all the time. All right, we're going into the next one. This is a collar. This is
so technical. Like you are really, I mean, our poor listeners, they're like, what the? Yeah, welcome to our world. Yes.
This is when you're getting into, okay, I have millions of dollars of stock and I need to be very careful about what happens. So your collar, you're essentially selling two different types of contract. One will protect you if that stock plummets downwards, and the other one protects you if that stock goes up. You can essentially buy and sell contracts for equal dollar amounts. It's essentially going to protect you with big market movements.
But there's a cost to it, right? Because they're paying for the contracts, right? So there is like a little bit of a cost to the client to do the collars.
You want to go nerdy?
Yeah.
You can do a costless collar, or called a cashless collar, which essentially means the contract you sell is the same as the contract you buy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you're net zero. The way that you can do this then is if the stock starts to move up, you essentially cancel both contracts and you rewrite them, and you essentially move your collar. Let's see if I can get this on the screen. If your stock price goes up, here's your two contracts. You essentially move it as the stock is going up, and you protect your stock as it's climbing up. Will the normal person get to use a collar in their everyday life? No. Will a C-suite level executive who has to hold a lot of stock use it? Yes. Because that could be the net. That could be a lot of their net worth.
I've kind of handled a lot of my clients with concentrated stock risk at this point, but some still have some. I wouldn't say anywhere like nearing 100 or 40 or 30, maybe still 10, right?
Talking percentage points here?
Yeah. And okay. I really do like just coming up with a plan tax-wise, and then you make an agreement, and it's just like, okay, we're going to sell it over the next 5 years. Like something like that, right? 20% over the next 5 years. I like just start throwing out things, and then the client and I negotiate, and then we land on something. But the point is, we now have a plan, and we both feel good about it.
So I talk like this on the podcast with all these strategies. And then when I sit down with a client, I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, okay, so you work for, let's choose AbbVie because that's where a lot of my execs are. Like, all right, you work at AbbVie, your stock's there, your paycheck is from there, your benefits are from there, your pension's there, your deferred compensation is going to be paid out from there. Heck no, you're not holding any stock.
I'm looking.
And they see it. As soon as I just list out every part of their life that's tied to the company, they're like, no way. Get rid of the stock. Whatever the tax cost, we'll eat it this year and move into next year.
If you have stock in your 401k, company stock, and you reach one of the qualifying events, they're turning 59 and a half, you can transfer out your company stock, transfer it to a brokerage account. You then have to transfer the rest of the 401k to an IRA. That company stock, you pay ordinary income taxes on the cost basis, but the beauty of it is that whole gain is long-term capital gains. It's a big deal.
I like the fact it's immediately long-term capital gains.
Mm-hmm.
And then anything other than that grows. Then it goes to ordinary rules of 1 year and above for short versus long-term. But the fact that you can move it out, pay the taxes on that cost basis, and then it's immediately long-term capital gains. So you could sell it the day after and just pay that 15% on that long-term capital gains. Typically don't see many people with it though, just because people are not holding company stock as much. I think I've seen it done one time.
But I'm like, okay, if I'm like a client's 5 years out from retirement, or a few years, they have the company stock, I would maybe think about not selling it and letting it grow. I mean, not 40%, 50%, 100%, no different situation. But let's say maybe leaving 10 to 15% so you can do NUA. It's something to think about because it can be a huge tax difference.
All right, before we jump into questions, 2 things that we're going to mention that you can go research on your own if you are interested in this. One is called direct indexing. It is something that has got a lot of exposure in the recent years. For a lot of people, it's worth it. For a lot more, it's not. The other one is an exchange fund. This will be relevant to 1 in 100 people. Maybe you're that one, but chances are you're not. So if you're interested, go ahead and read about it. But we're going to get into some fun questions with our section called What Would You Do? Heather, I'm throwing this one at you because this one, I don't know what to do.
What? So you don't know what to do? Okay.
I've got some ideas, but I'm like, I don't know.
Question. Okay, so tell me, hit me with it.
All right, question number 1.
Okay.
Between 1999 and 2002, I bought Apple, Amazon, and Netflix in my brokerage account.
Oh my God.
I invested $10,000 in each. Together, they're now worth just under $10 million.
I believe that.
What should I do?
They basically have 100%. There's no cost basis. That is going to be 100% taxable. I mean, I'd at least sell. Well, I would not reinvest dividends. That's the first thing I'd turn off. So I can start diversifying. Then I would try to keep them in the 24% tax bracket and diversify every year. I don't know. My gut is I'd take $500,000 off the table every year. Just what I'm sticking with. You would sell all of it. You can't take a $10,000 tax bill. $10 million.
Why are you looking at me saying I would sell all of it?
Okay, you'd sell, let me guess.
None of it. This is where the exchange fund comes in.
Oh, you lied.
I realized.
You do know what you would do.
Well, then I was like, I just mentioned this. Like,
right.
Why would I?
You would do direct indexing or exchange fund for sure. This is one where it would fit. You'd have to.
All right. Seeing as I didn't explain what an exchange fund is, now I have to explain what an exchange fund is.
Yes.
Okay. So for people listening, if you have really large positions like this of individual stocks, there's companies out there who build their own mutual fund. And they'll say, we're looking for, X stocks, we're looking for large cap growth stocks. If we have enough, now we're doors closed on this, we need some international stocks. And they're marketing for this. So if you've got Apple, Amazon, and Netflix, you essentially give them your shares. You lock it up for a period of time. You essentially get a diversified portfolio because everyone is throwing in lots of different types of shares. At the end of that, you get cashed out a diversified portfolio. Ones I've seen, they're like 7 years. But you essentially get rid of all your gains. You do get gains on the back end when you cash out, but it's in a diversified portfolio. You get rid of your concentration.
I was the early member of a tech company, and most of my compensation was in stock. As we're about to IPO, my net worth is going to go from $750,000 to $6.5 million, but in company stock. Do I keep it or sell it?
One thing that you could have done, if before you asked this question, is you could have done an 83B election. But it sounds like you've not done that. We're not going into the detail of what an 83B is. So you got $6.5 million in company stock. Look at what happens to companies after they IPO.
Oh, yeah. Very good point.
There is a chance that your company will drop in value. There's also a good chance you're going to have a blackout date after that IPO, and you're just going to have to ride that wave. I don't care about taxes at this point because you have now won the game of life. I'm going to liquidate the whole position. That means you can stay at that company and you don't care what it does. It could go to zero. You've won. Or you could do what a lot of people at tech companies do. They cash out and they go to another company.
I'd agree.
Question number 3. I work at a pharmaceutical company, and despite everyone's advice, my 401k is completely in my company stock.
No.
The company's done well, and at age 42, my 401k is over $1 million. I'm getting a little nervous. What are your thoughts?
Oh, come on, sell. Absolutely. And it's not taxable. It's in a 401k. If you're getting nervous, good. I'm going to use that. I'm going to manipulate you openly, and it's time to sell and diversify out. Let's say 900,000 diversified. Keep 100,000 would be my max in the company stock.
Yeah. 3 kickers in this question. Despite everyone's advice, my 401k is completely in stock. Yeah, perhaps everyone is right.
Mm-hmm.
You should not be in 401k stock. It's in the 401k. Like you said, liquidate it all. No tax consequence. You're 42. You can't NUA for another 17 and a half years.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, what I do? And then I looked at his age and I was like, or her, and I was like, nope. Like, it's too long. It's too many years where that company could tank. Too much risk. Agreed. Agreed again. We're on it today.
Wrap it up. Put a bow on it.
Yep.
All right, we're going into highlights. Our last section of the podcast. This is where we talk about personal wins. I'm going to go first. All right, I got to air out my own dirty laundry here. I am the king of procrastination. I do things at last minute because stress pretty much is my motivator, even though I don't live a high stress life.
That is not true, because you get mad at me if I don't do our podcast briefs and give you 2 days time.
Mm-hmm. I don't live that on the other side. I like people to have stuff done early.
Oh, okay.
Also, if I am doing stuff with other people, I'm the model teammate. If I'm doing stuff by myself, I've meant to record my own podcast for the 3 weeks prior to this, and I've not done it because it's me holding myself accountable. So in order to get over that, I downloaded this app called Brick, and it's an app as well as this scannable device. You essentially scan your phone with it, and as soon as it scans, it locks the phone out of the apps that you want it to be locked out of. And then you go put that in a very inconvenient place. For me, it's my office because I'm down here to work, and that's it. And so if I go upstairs from my basement office and I'm like, oh, let me just check this. Okay, I have my phone and text messaging available. Everything else is locked. Am I going to go downstairs to unlock my phone? No.
That's brilliant.
I'll just deal with that.
That's really smart.
It does catch you out if you're at the store and you need to get into the grocery store app coupon. And then you're locked out and you're like, damn it, I guess I'm paying full price for strawberries today and not half price.
So I alluded to this earlier. We are officially moved out of my house for the remodel.
You do have a different backdrop.
Yes.
There's no plants and books.
Yeah, no. I'm at my grandma's house. She lives in a 2-bedroom patio home. Luckily, she's in San Diego with my aunt. But the Townsends have thrown up this place. I mean, there is stuff everywhere. A Bernese Mountain Dog, 2 kids, and us in a 2-bedroom patio home is pretty hysterical.
Don't you both work from home as well?
Yes. I'm in my mom's bedroom. He is in the living room area.
That's tight.
But, okay, this is what I want to say. When you move, no matter what, I've moved a lot in my life, like a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I know it's a lot of work. Every time it's more work than you think. And every time you have more stuff than you think. But it is also so cleansing. We got rid of so much. I'm like, every time I move, I love moving. So I'm like, if I don't want to pack it, I don't love it that much. Donate. Our garage is going to be so clean. Here's the funny thing though. So I did a little poll on Instagram and I'm like, okay, my contractor said it will take 2 to 4 months for the project. I said, so the poll was, do you think it's going to take 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, or a year?
I was going to say 6.
Everyone has pretty much said. So I'm like, no. I am planning to be out of my house for a max of 3. So I will keep everyone updated. But I will tell you they arrived on time on Monday. The kitchen is already demoed. The appliance is already delivered into the garage. So now does that change your estimate?
No.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of Playbook of the Wealthy. You can find us on YouTube, where you listen to podcasts, Instagram, LinkedIn. I don't know. Just search for it and you'll find it, because we're that good. Our reach is that good. If you do want to send any questions to the show or just send us an email, you can reach us at hello@playbookotw.com, and we'll see you next time.
Toodles!